I don't know where the mic is. She has the mic. Yes.
Okay, I have two questions concerning 2 points that you raised. The first one, since I'm guessing most of the people here are capitalists or libertarians, and I know that you guys like numbers. So I'd like to refer to this one number that I read in the Washington Post. 85 people uphold more wealth than 3.5 billion people in the world together. So yeah, that brings me to the inequalities part. How can we be flourishing and call ourselves a flourishing percent of people in a world with such radical inequalities, where 3.5 billion people live in radical poverty? And also,
So let me answer that before you go on to the next question, because otherwise I'll be swamped. So I'll throw back a few numbers. One is that since Asia has adopted elements of capitalism, 800 million people have risen out of poverty. From a state in which everybody was poor, now 800 million people are not poor anymore because of freedom. Second, 85 people have created more wealth than 3.5 billion. That's the reality. Bill Gates has created more wealth than, I don't know, I'm trying to multiply how much richer he is than I am, but more wealth, in terms of actual wealth, than thousands of me, or maybe millions of me. That's the reality. He has improved the world in a material sense thousands or maybe million times more than I have. He deserves every last penny that he has. Now, if you take a farmer in Africa who's subsistence farming, how much wealth is he producing? Zero. Bill Gates, when he creates Microsoft, how much wealth is he producing? Billions, if not trillions of dollars. So yes, Bill Gates is an infinitely number richer because he's infinitely more productive than the poor guy in Africa. Now, why are there 3.5 billion poor people in the world? That's an important question. I care about poor people. I don't want to see poor people. No, I really do. I care about poor people more than any socialist I know on the planet. I'm serious. I love human beings. I love humanity. I love people because I love myself. And I love life. And therefore I love other beings that are alive, particularly sentient beings who can think. And I think it's a massive tragedy that we have 3.5 billion people who are still poor. And I know why they're still poor. They're still poor because we haven't brought them capitalism. You want to make Africa rich? Give the peasant property over his land. Give him property rights and let him start a business. You know how long it takes to start a business in some parts of South America or Africa? A month or 2. You know how long it should take to start a business for a young entrepreneur in Africa or in South America? A day. He should be able to file some document for, I don't know, for tax purposes or whatever, and that's it, and start a business. So statism, socialism, welfare statism has enslaved the poor. We keep them poor, we keep them down. Capitalism is the only system in human history, the only, emphasis on only, system in human history to be beneficial for poor people.
Okay.
That's fact.
I am very glad that...
No.
Okay.
She's in the minority in this room.
No,
She's in the majority out there, but minority in the room. So respect her courage in standing up and asking a question. It's good.
That brings me to the second point.
Yep.
You said the way to enrich a poor farmer in Africa is to give him the land. Sure, I agree. I agree that Bill Gates has every right in the world to his wealth, but don't you think that saying that giving a piece of land to an African farmer is utopia? The main argument that capitalists have against socialists is that they're utopians. You can't have everybody happy, you can't have everybody being wealthy. But that brings me to the last point and the last question, and that is, how can you speak of a utopia, actually, of capitalism? And the other thing that you said about people, the basis of capitalism being producing and being able to produce a product. Well, what would you do with all the people that cannot produce? The old people, the people who need help.
Good question.
Lonely people, and
I get
well,
it.
people
get it.
without any money.
So, first
will
of
you do
all,
with them?
I mean, it's ridiculous to claim it's utopia when for 3.5 billion other people, it's already happened. Right? 3.5 billion people might be poor, but 3.5 billion people are not poor. There are about 7 billion people on the planet or something like that. So it's already happened to a lot of people. In places like Rwanda, in places like, I can't remember the country, I think it's Botswana, one of the countries adjacent to South Africa. I don't think it's the Congo. Congo is a disaster, but I think it's Botswana. But people are getting property rights. That is actually changing right now. Instead of sending Africa foreign aid, which does nothing to help them, and you can read about the corruption of foreign aid, where dictators are funneling their money into Swiss bank accounts, instead of giving them foreign aid, let's go over there and teach them about capitalism. Let's teach them about property rights. We learned Europeans are not superior to Africans. We're not a different racially superior people. If we could learn the benefits of capitalism, they can learn the benefits of capitalism. Let's go teach them. Let's go help them establish this. Let's undo whatever damage we might have done as colonials. Let's bring them freedom to Africa instead of perpetuating poverty by handing them checks and telling them everything's okay. You don't have to change at all. You'll be fine. Here's a check so you don't starve tomorrow. Which is treating them like children, worse than children. It's treating them as if we're racists, as if we're superior. And there's a system that works for every human being who's tried it, every country that's tried it, every race that's tried it, and it works. Asia used to be dirt poor 50 years ago, dirt poor, just like Africa. And in the Asian tigers, these little countries established property rights, allowed for trading, allowed for free markets, allowed people to open businesses easily and legally. And guess what? They're all rich now. South Korea is rich. Japan, which was devastated by World War II, became rich because of capitalism. Not to mention Taiwan, and even places like Thailand, which still have a lot of poor people, are much richer than they were 30, 40 years ago. Why? Because they established elements of property rights. That's not utopian. That's very realistic. It's happening every day somewhere in the world. Right? I was just in Colombia, in South America, where there are still very poor people, but they've turned a corner and they're starting to see real economic growth, and poor people are starting to gain property rights, and they're getting better. And capitalism works for them, just like it works for every single country that's ever tried it. There was another part of the question that now, this is the problem when you ask too many questions. I'm getting old and I can't remember them. Oh, I can't produce. But let me finish the point about utopia. Utopians want to change human nature. They want to change the very foundation of human nature. I don't want to change human nature. I want to build a system for human nature. You see, I believe human nature is what Aristotle said human nature is, which is human beings are the rational animal. I want people to live up to their rationality, not to change their nature, but to live up to it, to rise to the challenge of being rational and using their reason. That's not utopian. That's just high expectations. And I have high expectations of my kids, my coworkers, and you guys. Right? What happens to people who can't take care of themselves? Now, first, let me say that's a very small number. You mentioned old people can't take care of themselves, but old people have had a lifetime to save so that they can hire people to take care of them. In capitalism, you make a lot of money, you can save. Before the welfare state, people used to save. I know saving is unpopular. We're told to consume, go buy stuff. God forbid you should put some money in the bank for when you're old and you might need some help, right? Old people traditionally were also helped by their children. There's a certain relationship of children and parents, love relationship, but now we say children, don't care about your parents. Consume, and let your parents consume. The state will take care of them for you. So, take care of yourself is one, if you can. Some people cannot, but if you can. Your children can take care of you, or family, if we want to broaden it. If they can, some people can't. There's always going to be a small percentage who really, really, really can't, right? But it's a small percentage. So what happens to them? Now let me ask you people, right? This group of capitalists, greedy capitalists, right? How many people here want to see those people who can't take care of themselves dying in the streets? You guys are greedy capitalists. How many people here would be willing to put a few dollars, put a little money, because it's not a lot, because it's a small group, to a charity to take care of these people? How many of you would be willing to contribute to a charity to take care of people who really cannot take care of themselves? Now, there's your answer. The answer is that if we, in a capitalist society, one of the things that happens, and you could see this in the 19th century in America, is people are very benevolent. They care about other people. Capitalism is an economic system of love. There's a new one for you, right? Objectivism, by the way, is the philosophy of love. We love life. We love ourselves. We love freedom. We love reason. We love other human beings who contribute to our success. We don't want to see people dying. We will voluntarily help them. What we don't accept as capitalists, as objectivists, we don't accept the idea that you have a right to force me to participate in a scheme I don't want to participate in. If I want to help this person over here, I should do it out of my own free will. You don't have a right as an individual, as a group, to put your hand in my pocket or Steve Jobs' pocket or Bill Gates' pocket and take the money out and give it to them. If I want to help them, Bill Gates is obviously wants to help people, so he's charitable. There are lots of charities. But you don't have a right to force me. Any more than you have a right to force me to worship a God, or a right to tell me who to marry or who not. You don't have a right to tell me what to do with my money. It's mine. I made it. I worked hard for it. It's mine. I might choose to give it to the beggar in the street. I might choose not to give it. Because, you know what? My son needs an operation and I need the money to pay for his operation. Or he needs money for school or whatever, right? It's my values that should dictate how I use my money, not your values telling me how I should live. And this, by the way, is an ancient debate between two great philosophers, Plato and Aristotle. Plato said, you know what, guys? You don't know what's good for you. You need the philosopher king to tell you what's good for you. You need them to tell you how to take care of the people you want to take care of, what to do with your money, what profession you should have, who to marry, and everything. And Aristotle said, no. Each one of us has reason. Each one of us can figure out what's good for ourselves. We don't need philosopher kings. We're the philosopher king of our own life. I am on Aristotle's side.
To begin with, I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize. I know this is difficult. Can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute. That man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it. And that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason. A morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
How does objectivism differ from the philosophies that many of us have been exposed to in our youths? Philosophies based upon religions, theologians, dogmatists.
The very first difference, objectivism tells you that it is not right, it is not proper to man to take anything on faith. Religion is a matter of faith. You accept a religion emotionally or because you were born to it. You have not chosen it rationally. What objectivism will tell you is that reason, man's reason, is his basic means of survival. That is the most important faculty which he has, and he has to guide his life and make his choices by means of his rational faculty. He has to make his own choices, but he has to know how to make them. It is immoral for him to act on his emotions, to be guided by the whim of the moment. That objectivism holds as very wrong, very immoral. And morality, in fact, consists of following your reason to the best of your ability. So that rationality is the basic virtue from which all the others proceed.
My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
Tell me the value of selfishness.
Use another word, self-esteem. The value of selfishness is that you esteem yourself as a value, that you live according to your nature, which means by the judgment of your own mind, and you respect your own mind, you respect your own ability to do the right thing, therefore you respect the possibility of being a morally virtuous person, and you regard yourself as a value worth preserving. To make a success of yourself in any line of rational activity is a great virtue. And people will attack you for exercising your ability, for hard work, for consistency, for ambition. And they will want to make you feel guilty of it. That is the greatest evil, according to my philosophy.
And wait, say that again. The greatest evil, according to your philosophy, is to attack an individual because of virtue.
What I call it is to experience or act on hatred of the good for being the good. That is attacking people for their virtues, for their achievements, for anything they have which is a value, actually, not for their flaws and not for their evil. In fact, people who preach that are the ones who are mawkish about the evil people, the failures, the liars, the cheats, everybody who is weak suddenly acquires some kind of value. But anyone who is a success has to be attacked for his success.
And look at how you have been attacked.
Oh, I know.
How you have been criticized.
You know that?
There are many people in this country, forgive me, in this world who think you're daft.
They don't. They want you to think that.